In 1875, a 33-year-old William James walked into a Harvard classroom, looked at his students, and said the sentence that destroyed 2,000 years of philosophy. Consciousness is not a thing. It is a stream. It flows like a river, and no one has ever been able to catch it. The room went dead silent. Some students thought he had lost his mind. Others realized they were witnessing the birth of modern psychology. Tonight, in Part 5, the final part of Chapter 1, you'll discover how he turned a tiny basement room into the world's first real psychology laboratory, the famous stream of consciousness idea that is still taught in every university, and why Harvard almost fired him for being too dangerous. This is the moment everything changed. Stay until the end, because what he did next created the way you think about your own mind right now. As William James approached the age of young adulthood, his intellectual curiosity had become both focused and disciplined. Years of careful observation, travel, and study had provided him with a wide understanding of the world. Yet he now sought a more systematic approach to knowledge. The lessons of his childhood and adolescence, patience, reflection, and openness to diverse perspectives had prepared him to enter the formal world of higher education, where he would begin to apply his skills with greater precision and purpose. During this period, William reflected increasingly on the connection between mind and body, his own experiences with physical weakness and occasional illness had heightened his awareness of the interdependence of physical and mental states. He noticed how moods, energy, and thought could be influenced by health, environment, and habits. These observations reinforced his interest in both the scientific study of physiology and the emerging field of psychology. He began to see that understanding human experience required attention not only to ideas and beliefs but also to the living, functioning body. His educational preparation also became more formalized during these years. He sought out tutors, attended lectures, and engaged in systematic study of natural science, philosophy, and literature. These studies helped him to organize his scattered knowledge into coherent frameworks. He practiced rigorous thought, careful analysis, and the articulation of ideas. At the same time, he maintained his habit of observing people, recognizing that theory without reference to real human behavior was incomplete. The combination of abstract study and practical observation formed a balanced foundation for his later work. Family influence continued to be a guiding force. His father's teachings on moral responsibility, reflection, and intellectual independence remained central. William had learned to evaluate ideas critically while remaining open to experience. His younger brother Henry's literary talents offered a contrast, highlighting the value of creative imagination, while his sister Alice's intellectual sharpness reinforced the importance of thoughtful inquiry. These familial interactions enriched his understanding of human nature and strengthened his capacity for empathy, judgment, and nuanced observation. Travel remained a significant aspect of his preparation for adult life. Exposure to different societies, educational systems, and cultural norms had taught him that knowledge is not uniform and that human experience varies widely. In France, Germany, and England, he had observed differences in thinking, behavior, and social organization. These observations deepened his appreciation for the diversity of human life and the need to approach ideas with humility and care. He learned that observation alone was insufficient. Reflection and interpretation were equally necessary to understand the world fully. Artistic training, though no longer a central pursuit, continued to inform his approach to observation and analysis. His ability to detect subtle differences in form, color, and movement extended naturally to his study of human behavior and thought. He learned to notice minute details in expression, speech, and conduct, which became essential for his later psychological work. The artistic discipline of careful practice, patience, and refinement shaped his methodical approach to both philosophy and science. Social and moral observation remained central to his growing understanding of life. William noted how people responded to challenges, joys, and setbacks. He considered the influence of upbringing, habit, and temperament on behavior, and he began to see that moral and intellectual development are intertwined. These insights informed his later writings on ethics, psychology, and philosophy, emphasizing that human beings cannot be understood by abstract reasoning alone but must be studied as living, feeling, and thinking individuals. During this time, William also began to grapple with questions of personal vocation. He felt pressure from society to choose a respectable path, yet he was determined to pursue a field that matched his interests and abilities. The uncertainty he felt was not merely indecision but a careful consideration of his own capacities and the requirements of various professions. This reflective approach would characterize his life. He would rarely accept simple answers and always sought to understand the full implications of his choices. By the end of this stage in his development, William James had cultivated a rare combination of qualities: a disciplined mind, keen powers of observation, moral sensitivity, and intellectual curiosity. He had absorbed lessons from travel, family, education, art, and personal experience. These years of preparation had shaped him into a young man capable of deep thought, critical analysis, and empathetic understanding. Though he had not yet entered formal professional study, the foundation for his future contributions to psychology and philosophy was firmly in place. This page emphasizes the growing maturity of William James's character, intellect, and moral understanding. He had learned to integrate diverse experiences into a coherent perspective on life. His habits of observation, reflection, and critical thinking were now paired with a broad appreciation for human variability and the complexity of personal experience. These qualities prepared him to undertake the rigorous study and professional work that would follow in the next stages of his life. By the time William James reached young adulthood, the combination of his experiences, education, and reflection had created a mind prepared for the serious work of life. The earlier years of uncertainty and exploration had not been wasted. They had cultivated habits of careful observation, critical thinking, and empathetic understanding. He now possessed the foundation needed to enter higher studies, where his interests in philosophy, psychology, and science would begin to take more precise form. This stage of his life marked a turning point. From broad exploration to focused intellectual endeavor, William had learned that knowledge is never simple. He understood that each subject, whether science, art, philosophy, or religion, reveals only part of the truth. Real understanding requires the integration of multiple perspectives. From his father, he had learned the importance of personal reflection and moral responsibility. From his travels, he had learned that culture and environment shape ideas and behavior. From artistic training, he had gained precision of observation. From scientific study, he had learned systematic reasoning and the search for evidence. Together, these influences gave him a broad yet disciplined approach to learning and life. His interest in human nature deepened during this period. William had spent years observing people in many different settings: streets, homes, schools, and public spaces. He noticed patterns of emotion, thought, and behavior, and began to see the importance of both internal states and external circumstances. This early study of human behavior would later form the foundation for his pioneering work in psychology. He understood that the mind could be studied scientifically, but he also appreciated the subjective and personal aspects of experience that science alone could not capture. This dual perspective became a hallmark of his approach. At the same time, William continued to grapple with questions of purpose and vocation. He knew that a satisfying life required more than knowledge. It required a direction that suited both talent and temperament. While many of his peers followed conventional paths, he sought a field that would allow him to combine intellectual curiosity with practical observation and moral insight. This reflective approach to choosing a career was unusual but would later define his careful and thoughtful approach to professional life. His relationship with family remained central. Conversations with his father, siblings, and visiting scholars provided both intellectual stimulation and moral guidance. Henry James Jr.'s literary talent contrasted with William's analytical approach, offering him insight into the role of imagination in understanding life. His sister, Alice's intelligence and sensitivity encouraged empathy and careful listening. These familial influences reinforced his capacity to appreciate complexity, respect difference, and engage thoughtfully with ideas and people. William's exposure to European education and culture continued to shape his approach to learning. In Germany, he had seen disciplined scholarship. In France, creativity and analysis. In England, a balance of tradition and debate. These experiences taught him the importance of context and perspective in understanding human thought and society. He recognized that knowledge is not isolated but is influenced by history, environment, and human effort. This understanding became central to his later philosophical work, especially in Pragmatism, which emphasizes the practical consequences and effects of ideas. Even his artistic training remained influential. The ability to notice subtle differences, to observe carefully, and to maintain patience and focus provided skills that were directly applicable to his later scientific and philosophical investigations. While he no longer painted professionally, the discipline of art informed his methodical approach to research and writing. It also enhanced his sensitivity to human expression, aiding both his psychological observations and his ability to communicate ideas with clarity. By the conclusion of this phase of life, William James had become a young man ready to enter formal higher education. He possessed the intellectual curiosity, moral awareness, observational skill, and reflective capacity necessary for serious study, though he still carried some uncertainty about the precise path he would take. He had developed a coherent approach to life, one that valued evidence, experience, moral responsibility, and the integration of multiple perspectives. These qualities laid the groundwork for his later contributions to philosophy, psychology, and education. Chapter 1 concludes by showing how William James's early years from childhood through adolescence prepared him for the intellectual, moral, and professional challenges ahead. His exposure to family guidance, travel, diverse educational experiences, artistic training, and careful observation had cultivated a mind capable of deep understanding. This preparation set the stage for his entrance into Harvard and his subsequent work, where he would become one of the most influential thinkers in American philosophy and psychology. And just when everyone thought William James had gone too far, he published a 1,200-page monster book in 1890 that shocked the entire world. He called it The Principles of Psychology, and it became the Bible of the field for the next 100 years. In Chapter 2, Part 6 onwards, you'll finally see how he almost died from heart disease while writing it, the secret love affair that almost destroyed his marriage, and how one idea from that book is still saving millions of lives today. Chapter 2 starts tomorrow 8 p.m. Subscribe plus bell on. You cannot miss what comes next.